Okay, let's talk about the in-person meeting requirement for people who are filing for a fiancé petition. So they're filing an I-129F petition to begin the fiancé visa process. So the legal requirement is that you must have met in person within 2 years, so less than 2 years before you file that first step of the I-129F. And there have been a lot of people getting RFEs or requests for additional evidence from the government saying you haven't sufficiently proved that that you met in person in the 2 years before you filed this. So this is just, again, some general information about what sorts of evidence you can include. Whenever you have an RFE, it's very, very important that you are sure that your answer is good, because if it's not, they can just deny it and you would have to start over, or you could have made your case worse by not convincing them the first time. So we would always encourage you that if you're facing an RFE to get legal advice. We're happy to have a consultation and advise you about that. I just have to throw out my lawyer caveats here. So let's talk about what kind of evidence we actually use to respond, typically in a general case. And we use multiple types of evidence if possible to make it as convincing as possible. So typically we would first start with any legal documents you have proving that you entered the other person's country. So let's say that the US citizen went to, give me a country, you guys, Belgium. I don't know. People are gonna be like, you never pick my country when you make your random examples. Okay, tell me, and I'll make it in my next random example. Say the U.S. citizen went to visit Belgium and they have an entry stamp in their U.S. passport showing that they actually did enter that country. We would include a copy of that passport stamp. Sometimes, depending on the country, you might have a copy of a visa proving that you applied for lawful entry into that country, the passport stamp, and those are the most official legal documents. The same thing if the immigrant came and visited the U.S. citizen in the United States. They would probably either have a visa, or they would have cleared through the ESTA system. They would have a stamp in their passport. They would have an I-94, which you can get online. If in recent years they've made those available online in most cases. So first get the legal documentation, then move on to things that are not quite as official as like a passport stamp, but are still really helpful, which would be things like your airline tickets showing your name and the date. And we would typically highlight the name and the date and where they were going to show that you actually entered that country. Maybe you have hotel receipts of you two spending time together when you were there. And then you would also potentially add on anything else, any other evidence you have of being there, like photos together and things like that. You definitely can't rely only on photos together, especially because now everything's so photoshoppable. But to really answer in a thorough way, it's great if you can show legal documentation plus just some, hotels and receipts showing that you were there and did stuff together. You were in the same place. And then if you can show sort of some, oh, that's so cute, look at them visiting, Belgium together or something. So that's how we would typically answer those. One very, very important thing to keep in mind, a common mistake we see in people who are doing their own cases is that they will send a recent meeting, but they don't pay attention to the fact that the legal requirement is that you met within the 2 years before filing your petition. So let's say you filed your petition on January 1st of 2021. Well, it has to be the 2 years before that. It doesn't matter. Any trips after that, if you visited in February or something like that, those don't matter, and those will confuse the government. So don't send more than one trip, some of the trips which don't legally qualify, because we've seen them sometimes say, oh, it doesn't qualify, denied, because they didn't even read your whole packet. Only send trips that were within that 2-year period prior to filing the I-129F. So just a technical thing to definitely keep in mind, otherwise it doesn't help you. Okay,